I was just sat in the room and I was like, I feel like I've made the worst decision of my life. This is what people think about me. Everybody wants me to be cancelled. Started to get really bad, like social anxiety after that. I didn't want to leave the house. I didn't want to do anything. It was just a horrendous time. There was a lot of press about me that wasn't necessarily true. And then everyone was like, she needs BD platform. She needs to be cancelled. She needs all of her brand deals taken away from her. Like she's a bad role model, This wasn't even actually factual.
I just found life again. I'd lived for so long with a really terrible addiction that probably if it had carried on any longer, it would have taken my life for sure. I had two choices. One was to take my own life and the other one was to call my mum.
If you think that ADHD is funny, you don't have it. There's nothing funny about it. It's horrible.
I don't want to live with these things, and if I could choose to just be neurotypical, I absolutely would.
I got like hyperfixated probably on the wrong things. Perfectionism. So if something doesn't look 10-10, I don't want to put it out there. I have really high expectations on myself. Burnout, ADHD paralysis. On the outside of it, my life looks fabulous. I had just had an amazing event. It was all about me. I had like famous artists there. Like everyone showed up. It was amazing. And I've never felt worse in my life. That lasted for so long. It's like hundreds of thousands of opinions as well. It's not like one or two. So when people are like, I don't care about what people think. Well, when 100,000 people are saying you're a bitch, then you start to think maybe I am a bitch.
The hardest thing to do is to open your mouth and reach out to someone. Whether you feel like a burden, you don't have the words, you don't want to inconvenience someone, it is impossibly hard to do. There's got to be a way to catch someone before they get to that rock bottom.
I think one of the biggest issues that we have as a society is the like individualism that's glorified. I find it like toxic productivity of you have to do everything yourself and like everything is you.
That idea that someone feels it's their only option, I know what that feels like. I've been there. I can't sit back and do nothing knowing that especially young people feel that way when there is so much to live for.
It's my belief that too many societal problems persist because we keep relying on the same ways of thinking. Question the Default exists to challenge the norms that shape our society, dismantling the status quo and exploring better alternatives for how we live and manage our health and well-being. Question the Default is for those who are driven to create a better future. If this mission resonates with you, please consider subscribing, liking, or sharing. Every single small action helps us on our mission. Thank you. Amber and Tal are not only good friends, but they're joined together by their creativity, activism, and their own lived experience of challenging mental health narratives that keep people quiet. In this episode, we talk about going against expectations, confronting stigma, and how recovery can rewrite your story. Two amazing ambassadors of the charity Calm, and I'm very grateful for them both coming on, and a really honest, heartfelt conversation is what's coming ahead. Thank you. Tal, Amber, pleasure. Thank you so much for being on Question the Default.
Thank you for having us. Yeah.
Very good, thank you.
Good, yeah.
So you both know each other pretty well, right? How does this feel doing our first ever double episode together?
Yeah, we've never done anything like this together.
No. We've had a lot of good conversations between us, but nothing in this sort of way. I'm excited.
Yeah, I know. We should record. When we're doing tattoos, we should record
Yeah, we
it.
should, yeah.
Yeah. New series.
Yeah.
So your relationship got you to the place where you're now Amber's tattooist?
Yes, it did, yes.
Where did it all start for you guys?
It started... Does it start with the art? It started with
I think it started with the art.
Yeah, so I bought 2 pieces of art that are still up in my apartment right now. I love them. I need to get some more. And then ever since then, I don't even know what happened. I think we just kept seeing each other.
Yeah, we kept seeing each other socially, and we have quite a good, like, I don't know, I've always felt like we've had a good connection because we're quite different but also quite similar.
Yeah.
And I'm quite an honest person, and I think Amber enjoys that. And we just have, a nice relationship.
Yeah, nice energy, calm energy, especially if we're in parties together.
Yeah,
I always
just
gravitate towards you, like sit together, might just judge everyone or something.
What are the similarities, do you think? Have you kind of made sense of what those are?
We're both very honest.
Yeah, and I think that's probably on the ASD side of things. It's like, I think we're very honest. We're kind of, but to me, that's a sign of love, and some people don't get that.
I agree totally.
And I think that's kind of where we connect on that level.
100%.
It's more of a sign of how much we love each other, as opposed to like, you know, not liking each other, which some people may.
And I find that my honesty gets misconstrued and people don't appreciate it. So when I feel understood by someone, I'm like, grab onto them. Yeah, keep them. Yeah.
You said ASD there, for those that don't know what ASD is.
Autism Spectrum Disorder.
Okay. And that's, you have a diagnosis of ASD?
Yes, I have, yeah.
Amazing. And when did you find out about that part of you?
I found out a few years ago, actually. It was something I've felt for a long time, and kind of always had this idea that there was something going on, that's something that made me quite different. And eventually I spoke to some psychiatrists and kind of sought out a diagnosis of some kind, not specifically that, but that's then what came up.
And how have you been able to kind of implement what you now know about yourself into like your day-to-day? Like how do you come to terms with
I think it gives me permission to be myself rather than try and be a version of me that maybe I've always wanted to be, to kind of fit into social situations more or kind of follow the crowd more. But actually it's like I have this thing, and therefore that allows me to be a certain way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think it was a driving force into like what you do now as a career?
No. I think it doesn't really connect to each other. It definitely impacts my career. Sometimes not positively, because I get quite overwhelmed and overstimulated, and whereas other people that I work with kind of settle into the chaos of it a little bit easier. Okay. I feel like I struggle a bit more, but it's not something that kind of came hand in hand. Yeah.
Nice. No, the only reason I went there is that high attention to detail, that hyper focus, and obviously it plays out very differently to so many different people, right? But no, amazing. So that idea of kind of connectedness that you both had with each other. You mentioned the parties. Like any fun stories?
No, I don't have any fun stories at parties.
Cheese toasties. That's the first experience that you had of me. Yeah. Was me sat in a corner of a party just eating cheese toasties, and you didn't come over and speak to me.
No, I didn't. I was scared.
I don't know why. I'm so nice.
You are. It's true.
Yeah, that was the first. I don't think any funny. We just keep to ourselves.
Yeah.
But also, like, it's quite. You definitely think that I have ASD or
100%.
No, all sort of neurodiverse people are like, are you sure that you don't? I'm like, because sometimes, do you say ADHD or do you call it autism?
I think it. When I got my diagnosis, the lady very specifically said it's ASD.
Do you know what the difference is or no? Like, is it different?
Between like autism and well, I think ASD, Autism Spectrum Disorder, is just more of an updated term because it's such a variety of conditions.
Yeah,
and that you have Asperger's and autism, and there's some negative connotations to Asperger's, and so they've just like a new
collective,
it's just like a new way of calling it.
ADHD and ASD like go hand in hand, especially in girls as well, and so it's just something that's in my brain. I haven't been diagnosed, but I think that's probably why we'll get on.
Yeah,
as well.
definitely. If I can't diagnose you, but I would have a strong idea that.
But do you know how many people say that?
Yeah,
though?
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Why do you think they say that? And you've obviously been thinking yourself, right?
I don't know. Why do you tell me why you think it?
Because you're very niche in like especially when we come to do tattoos together, you're very niche in like your ideas, but you're also hyper focused on them. And I don't know, there's just something different about you.
Yeah, there is something different. I don't know. I think that neurotypical people wouldn't notice it because I'm very good at masking. Like, I don't think it's noticeable, but people within the neurodiverse community all think the same thing.
I think I would say women are pretty good at masking ASD specifically. And I think as well, if we look at your journey with your sexuality as well, I think sexuality, if you don't mind me saying, obviously sexuality is that kind of, I wouldn't say confusion, but that like journey throughout sexuality also comes up in ASD from what I understand as well. Yeah. And
I think the masking thing probably comes from the fact, I mean, total on a tangent here, by
this
the way.
Is always going to happen. So it's all
but
good.
I think the masking thing as well, obviously mixed race girl growing up in a predominantly white area, I think that plays into wanting to mask anyway, because I'm different to everyone else already. I'm not going to try and make myself even more ostracized. Do you know what I mean? So that's why I think I'm good at masking. But
And you grew up in the Northeast, right?
I did, Newcastle.
Yeah. Do you go back often?
I go back sometimes, but everyone loves coming to London.
To see you.
Yeah, everyone loves coming to London.
That's so interesting what you're saying about that. You almost like became good at kind of like masking, like very early on, because that was just like the norm.
Yeah.
Right? And a lot of people talk about the kind of ability to like change coats quite quickly, but then you realize you might have a diagnosis of autism or ADHD, and you become so used to it that actually when you find out, it's kind of just confirming.
Yeah.
Have you been able to look back at what you now know about yourself with your ADHD diagnosis and kind of, like how's that made you feel?
Do you know, I felt really conflicted when I got my diagnosis, because on one hand, it was like, thank God, I know, like I have an answer for like why my brain seems to function differently. Why am I getting so overwhelmed? Why am I not handling things the way that everyone else seems to be? And I think, I mean, I don't love talking about it, but I think that Love Island was a catalyst for me finding out about it, because we came out of the show and then everyone was kind of on like a playing field of like these the opportunities and and it seemed like everyone was doing so much more than me, posting loads, I couldn't get it together. Like I could not get it together to like keep up the same momentum that everyone else was. And I think that's what made me initially think like there's something going on, like because I had this window of opportunity and I just couldn't like reach the potential that I knew that I could. And so when I got my diagnosis, I was conflicted, because on one hand it was like relief, but on the other hand it was really like sad, because all my times in school, you know, like I'm a smart person, but I didn't do as well as what I know that I could in school. And I think that was one of the reasons why. Because my ADHD is inattentive. I mean, I'm not hyperactive. I think everyone knows I'm not that hyperactive, but I'm inattentive. So like ability to focus, like all those kinds of things that would make everything worse in school. Just made my school experience not that good. So it was like relief, like thank God, and sadness at the same time. So everything all at once. I think I just cried.
Yeah, I can relate to that.
Cried.
Yeah. I think for me, getting my diagnosis was very similar, because on the one hand, it's like finally I feel seen for how I've felt for so long. But also it was like, if this diagnosis would have come years earlier, how different would my life have been? And in school, I was very good. I was a very good student, but I struggled massively socially, and could never quite understand why I struggled so much. And so I also got quite upset, because there's this idea that I'm one of 4 siblings, but I'm very close in age with my 2 brothers. I'm the middle of the 3. And because I'm the middle, I was kind of like, what's the term? I was kind of like hidden in between my brothers, but also I allowed myself to like hide. And so I allowed them to be the social ones, and I would piggyback off them being so sociable. So I would hang out with them and their friends, and kind of, if they made plans, I'd go along with them. And so I didn't need to really like make too much effort, which allowed me to kind of settle in the lack of social ability. And then I felt a big sense of gratitude for having my brothers, but also still sadness for the younger version of me that didn't know how to function, and also like missed out on opportunities and friendships and stuff. And that's still something that I struggle with now, socially.
Yeah. And it's still a recent diagnosis for you.
Yeah. It's only a few years old.
A few years, yeah. This episode is brought to you in support of Calm, the campaign against living miserably. Calm is a leading UK suicide prevention charity on a mission to help people end their misery, not their lives. We both do things differently. We both know we need to change the conversation around suicide, and that's why together we're both creating space to question the defaults that shape the way we think, feel, and talk about suicide and mental health. We're opening up conversations that remind people, whatever you are facing, you're not alone. Calm has loads of tools and resources available to anyone online to help you find the support that you need, including a life-saving helpline for people open every day from 5 p.m. to midnight, as well as vital online resources for anyone who needs them. So if you or someone you know needs to talk, please visit thecalmzone.net. Thank you for being part of this. And of course, today we may touch on conversations about suicide in this episode. Together, we can question the defaults that keep people silent, smash the stigma around suicide, and help build a world where no one has to face this alone. Thank you. And how, like from a listener's perspective, there's a lot of people now trying to make sense of ADHD, autism, and other neurodivergent conditions. So if you take the example that you shared then, you've won Love Island, probably the most popular Love Island series, was it?
Yes, it was.
I
Yeah.
So,
like what?
I think the year before might have been.
Oh,
Okay,
whatever. No, it wasn't.
I'm joking.
Should we get the viewing figures up right
No.
now?
but you sense at least, top 2. Let's go with that. Just to keep.
We'll say top 3.
Top
three.
1?
Okay.
It's in
I'll give
terms
it
of
to
the
you.
viewing
Sure.
figures, it was the most popular.
Okay.
Sure.
But I do think the one before was the catalyst for why that one was the most popular.
Okay,
So
we'll
there
agree
you
on
go.
that. We'll
There
agree
we
on
go.
that.
I've now lost my train of thought.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. But from an outsider's perspective, you've won. There's so much attention. You have everything. And the younger self, I am assuming then there's that kind of intensity to post, the brand deals. Like a lot of people just physically are not going to be able to make sense of why that was not how you operated because of what you shared then around your ADHD.
Mm-hmm.
So can you try and kind of give some insight to why it's not a case of, not wanting, but actually there's something within you?
Yeah, so I think that I get I get overwhelmed quite easily. I can be inconsistent with work, with everything. I mean, even my social media now, but somehow I get away with it, which is good. I think everyone's accepted us for the way I am now. So you might not hear from us in 3 months.
Yeah, we know.
But then when we
know on your emails.
on my email.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah, but I was here before you were.
You were.
So
You were.
I was on
That's true.
time.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah. I got hyperfixated probably on the wrong things or minor details, like perfectionism. So if something doesn't look 10/10, I don't want to put it out there. I have really high expectations on myself. Burnout, there's so many ADHD paralysis, all
What
of
is
these
that?
things. It's like a state of overwhelm where you just can't do what you need to do, and you want to do it, but there's it's like a mental block where you physically can't do the thing that you need to do. And I think that it was all brand new as well. So I was a beauty therapist before Love Island, but I think that career is very different because I'm reliable. And so when I've got clients that are booked in for a certain time and I've got to be here then and then, I'll make it work because I don't want to let other people down. But when it's to do with me posting on Instagram, there's nobody to let down. There's nobody I'm missing an appointment for. There's nobody I'm doing anything for. It's just for myself. And so that's when I was like, you can't do your job properly anymore. What's going on?
Yeah.
And so, it was a nightmare. When I
Did you
first
feel that same pressure? So let's say you could take in your life beforehand where, you got appointments, you have to deliver on it, people have paid their money for those. And there's I assume you have to get there on time.
Yeah.
And then deliver and then leave on time. Did you feel the similar pressure when around posting? Because all eyes were on you at that point. Or was it different?
It's different because the eyes are on me, but I can't see the eyes. I can't, I just switch my phone off and I don't know. Whereas that's the physical, it was in the physical. I mean, I still used to show up to work late, but 5 minutes and my clients loved it, so it's fine.
Yeah.
But,
Did it become part of you that?
Yeah, I think people just think I'm a free spirit, I'll come and I'll that kind of thing. But the posting thing, I think because it wasn't that important to me or I didn't really understand the job. Now I probably feel differently about it, but at the time I'm like, what? I never used to post on Instagram. I wasn't an influencer. I didn't know anything about content creation, nothing. And so I didn't really know what I was supposed to be doing. And I don't like that. I don't like the perfectionism.
Yeah.
I don't like not knowing what I'm supposed to be doing. And so when I think that I'm not good enough to be doing what I'm doing, then
You just stop.
no, I'm not doing
And
it.
can it be a quick decision? That's me done.
Quick,
Yeah.
I'm not doing it. Yeah. And then what is important as well is having a team around you that know what you're like as a person as well. Because I've had teams where they just don't get it and they're like, this girl, what you doing? Whereas now I've got a team that, I think I'm better at communicating what I'm like and what I need as well. But I've got a team that can cater around me just going, right, I'm not doing anything today, I'm done.
Yeah.
Which is important as well.
Yeah.
So yeah.
The things that you find naturally harder they can help you, lift you up.
Yeah,
nice.
absolutely, yeah.
It's a game changer, right? So I also have a diagnosis of ADHD, so I can relate to a lot of what you're what you're sharing, the kind of the team dynamics and the things that you physically can't do.
Yeah.
And you kind of I think you can envisage in your mind like getting to a certain point when you're there and you physically can't force yourself to do it.
Yeah.
You're like, how? Why is this not like when you know it? You're like, okay, you could be easier on yourself, and you can,
But even
try and
then,
make
it's
sense of
still
it.
difficult to be easy on yourself. I think because what the hell do you mean? I can't do something even though I want to do. Like it doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make
and
sense.
so I always think it's nice talking to other people that
Totally.
have ADHD and have a diagnosis as well, because then you feel less alone with whatever it is that you're going through.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm on medication for ADHD, and there's some days you could say, I'm going to pay you £1 million to take the medication. I'm not doing it. I don't want to take it. And I don't know what it is. And then I was talking to another girl and I just brought it up and she was like, oh my God, I'm so glad that you said that, because I thought that I was like losing my mind. Like sometimes I'm so defiant, I don't want to take it. And I'm like, no, babes, I think it's just another symptom that we've got. So it's good to talk about it, because sometimes you can't wrap your own brain around some of the things, I think because we've been brought up in certain ways and this is how we deal with things and whatever. And so something different from that is like, well, what does that even mean? I don't get it.
Yeah. And it's so hard to relate it in words to other people. Unless you've lived it, or other people who've kind of been in similar shoes. Yeah. And then when you start to kind of share it, it's like, there's such an ease in that people get it. You don't even have to, I don't have to over-explain those points because you get it.
Yeah.
So that you both have shared in the past around kind of looking back at your kind of childhoods and that kind of almost like competing thoughts of like happiness of finding out about diagnosis, but also that kind of like, this is a lot for like looking back at your younger self and like what that younger self had to go through. And obviously you've both like used your platforms, I think, in amazingly honest, authentic ways to like for yourselves, but to be honest about who you are, but also to help so many people who are probably going to be in similar shoes to you. If you knew what you knew now, Tal, about your ASD, what would you say to your younger self? Nice, easy question for you.
I actually don't know the answer. I'd like to say it would get easier, but I don't think it necessarily does. I think with knowledge comes power about, knowing who we are and how to definitely like avoid certain things or kind of, go towards certain things. But I think I don't know. I think I'd just say, look, just like hang in there, just keep going, really. Because the truth is, it doesn't get easier. In my experience, I've not found it to get easier. That having the diagnosis definitely gives you some level of awareness, but I'm still, as life progresses and, my career takes a certain journey or friendships or relationships or whatever, I'm still met with new experiences that I'm like, oh, I really struggle doing this, or I find this quite fun, or is this easy? And I'm always learning. I don't know the answer to your question.
Hang in there, so powerful.
Yeah. Just keep going and just like, don't. This isn't the end, I guess. There's always going to be new things, kind of coming up, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, it's incredibly powerful, and I think it's a kind of a nice tie in there to talk about Calm, the charity that all three of us has a similarity. Like we're all ambassadors for Calm and have supported them in many different ways. And, sadly, those with a neurodivergent condition are at greater risk of suicide. So I think it's quite natural how we've all kind of gravitated, which was completely off script for what we're talking about, about this. But Amber, you were on Good Morning Britain. You talked about your ADHD alongside the CEO of ADHD UK. And some of the statistics he shared, I think, are just worth kind of talking about. So he stated that...
Thank God, I thought you were going to make me see the statistics. I was like,
surprise. Please tell me what...
Please tell me what he said. I'm like, oh.
But it was powerful. Like I watched it recently. 1 in 10 men or boys with ADHD will try and take their own life during their life. That's try to take their own life, not thoughts of suicide. And 1 in 4 women or girls will try and take their own life. Like those statistics are so incredibly high and scary. And, of course, that's a stat for ADHD, but of course, there's huge amounts of similarities across the other neurodivergent conditions. So that message around hang on in there, I think is so important for people who are trying to, on waiting lists, trying to find out whether they have a diagnosis or not. How have you found sharing your diagnosis to your kind of followers and publicly and to your family?
Well, I mean, my family were like totally fine. I'm like that. Like I don't want to say black sheep, but I'm just like that one that's like, what if she's figuring herself out, like we appreciate her, like we love her. That's kind of the vibe of my family.
Nice.
So it's really nice. I've kind of got a funny relationship with sharing online because it's very personal, and I know my struggles with it. Sometimes posting it on there can feel very vulnerable, and I don't like feeling vulnerable. Like, we know about me, I don't like feeling vulnerable at all. And so yeah, I do like to talk about it because I think it's good to share with my audience, because I think it's nice to question yourself and question your brain and research into things like, maybe do I have this? I think that's quite a good thing to do.
Yeah.
But then it comes with people like, you don't have ADHD. Oh, here's another thing on the list that she's got. Like, that's what people say. Yeah, I don't know. And I'm like, yeah. And I hate that because I'm like one person, I can't let things go. And I'm like, I want to reply to them. I want to say something. And so, yeah, I'm in a funny space with it. I think I'm probably going to get back into talking about, like mental health and ADHD a lot more, because I love what you do. I think the way you speak is amazing, and I don't do that. But I think it's good to have different voices as well.
Absolutely.
We sound so different.
Yeah, we do.
But it's the same thing that we're talking about, really. And I think we share a lot of the same views, but it just comes from a different angle. So yeah, I definitely want to do more, but I'm just in a funny place with it at the minute.
Quite interesting that you hold on to the comments about another thing that she has.
Yeah.
It's so damaging.
I'm like,
right?
do you think I want this? I don't want it. I don't want it. I don't want to come on and say, oh, I've just got my ADHD. I don't want, like, I'd prefer not to.
Yeah.
I'd prefer not to have all the symptoms that I have that have been like debilitating for us. And they're like, there's another tick on the list. And I'm like, you don't even know. Like, you don't even know. So yeah, I do hang on to things. I wish I didn't.
I mean, a lot of people say, oh yeah, I have that. They don't. They don't have that.
Yeah,
and it's like one small thing you might have said, and actually it's just not the full picture. And it comes from a good place, I think. But it doesn't. It's not the true picture.
Yeah, it's a bit deeper than that. But I saw a TikTok. I think I might have reposted it actually, because I thought it was so funny. And it was like, if you think that ADHD is funny, you don't have it. And I'm like, yeah. Like, you can have funny ADHD content, but if you think it's funny, then you don't have ADHD, because it's not. There's nothing funny about it. It's horrible. So, and I reposted that because I was like, yeah, I agree with that. Like, we can have a laugh and a joke, but like, it's not just like, oh, I'm so silly, I forgot my keys, like that kind of thing. I forgot to lock the door, I left it straight. It's definitely not that. It's not. It's like quite serious. It's very serious. And I think it's been trivialized a little bit, but
totally.
Yeah.
Totally. I think let's go on to that, the trivialization and the trend notion of it in a moment as well. But you've shared a lot, Tal, online, and Amber was saying about like kind of the similarities and differences in that. Like, how have you found being open about who you are and your mental health online?
I've shared a lot about a lot of things because I struggle with a lot of things, and to be quite honest, I share it selfishly because it helps me. I don't necessarily think about who it's going to help. I share it because in that moment I need to feel some sort of connection. And different to Amber, the vulnerability is something I thrive off. It makes me feel seen and heard. And it's not always easy to share the things that we go through, and similarly to Amber, the whole idea of, it's another thing on the list, like, I feel that deeply, and I'm always conscious of how I'm going to be perceived, because I was going to say before, not that long ago, I actually also got an ADHD diagnosis, which is not something I've ever mentioned. It's not something I necessarily agree with, but this was a professional that diagnosed me with that.
You don't agree with the diagnosis? Or you don't agree?
I don't necessarily agree with the diagnosis. However, when hearing you talk, I'm like, that sounds very familiar. But I'm so conscious of being that person that's, here we go again. It's another thing on the list. And it's like, I don't want to have these things, and I don't want to live with these things. And if I could choose to just be neurotypical, I absolutely would. But these are the cards I've been dealt, and that's just who I am. But I've been through so much, and I've spoken about a lot of different things, whether that's, coming out at 26 or going through quite a severe drug addiction in my 20s, or having ASD, or changing careers, or whatever it is. Like, this is just my life. And like I said, I wouldn't necessarily choose it. But that's just where I'm at. And I know how helpful it is because people tell me how helpful it is, that when I share these things, it resonates and people connect with it and stuff. So that's why I continue to share it. But the initial thing about sharing it is because I need that. Yeah. I can't remember the initial question.
I wish I felt the same way. I don't at all. But I think mine's probably because I got my following from a TV show. So there's certain expectations of what people want to see from me. And so maybe I need to do a second account.
But I have that same idea that if I post about, I'm having a bad day, then all of these people that follow me because they just want to see tattoos and are going to unfollow me because they're not interested in whatever.
Yeah.
So I obviously to a different level, but sometimes I wonder, do people want to hear that from me or do they just want to see some nice tattoos? So I need to make a decision about what I'm open about or what I share and stuff, because it's
everything. I like it. I like your account. I think it's nice.
Thanks.
I think it's a mix of nice. I like it.
Thank you.
I'm like,
I know
she does.
Yeah, she does.
Especially the outfit ones. I like the outfit ones as well.
Thanks.
Same. For my research, I've been kind of looking into like how you communicate, and I like how you kind of do it through art, right? And also how you've explained how in the when you're actually doing someone's tattoo, it's almost like kind of therapy. Like
absolutely.
I'd love to understand a bit more about that.
Yeah.
Like I can relate to that in like just when I've been in that one-to-one environment with a barber or tattoo, to be fair. Although only once, I'm making out like tattoos. But the
once is enough.
But no, when you're in that one-to-one environment or something like that, you do just find yourself being open. And like I remember with my barber, like some of the conversations, I knew his whole life history.
Yeah.
Like I knew what to ask him. Like next time I was back around like his relationships.
Yeah.
I was there thinking to myself, like I probably have a better relationship with you about like stuff that I don't actually talk to some of my friends about. But yeah,
it's so true. I mean, some of my clients I know them far better than I know a lot of people that I see socially. I'm probably guilty of oversharing, but that is, again, that's because that's something that I need. I need that connection. And when I'm sat with someone and they ask me about how my day is, or they ask me how I am, and they've seen something I've posted online and they're like, but really, how are you? Because I saw this and this. But it's such an intimate job. And I was a graphic designer for about 10 years. And one of the things that I struggled with was the lack of connection within my work, sitting behind a computer, kind of doing work for someone that was 3 floors above you that, was sending an email. So when I started tattooing, one of the biggest things I noticed that connection and vulnerability that I was lacking was being met so often. And it's such a special thing to be able to meet people. And I hold such a responsibility to not only share my stuff, but allow them to share their stuff, because this might be the only opportunity they have that week to talk to someone vulnerably. And especially the kind of the context of what we're doing, whether, they're getting a tattoo for a loved one, someone that they've lost, someone that, something that has had an impact on them, or whatever it is such an important thing. And I'm sure even though you've just got one tattoo, it's probably quite an important one.
Literally put it there to remind me of something, whenever I'm in that kind of darker place, it's always in view. And I was like, it's a phrase when I lost my dad to suicide, and I can relate to that all the time.
And that's the case with a lot of people. So there is I have a massive level of responsibility to my clients and my job and also my own healing, that it all kind of connects itself whilst I'm tattooing. Yeah.
Really powerful. And do you find, do people explain the meaning sometimes to their tattoos, and then opens up a conversation? I'm assuming it's a big thing.
Definitely.
Right?
To be honest with you, sometimes the conversations happen naturally where the client will be really forthcoming with that information. Sometimes I have to ask about it, but there's days that I have a lot of my own stuff going on. And sometimes the stuff can be quite heavy. So there's occasions where I don't feel in the position to ask, because I don't know if I'm able to handle the information as sensitively as I should be. So I kind of get an idea when they're asking me, when they're telling me what it is they want me to do. I can assume that it's going to be something quite heavy. So I have to make a decision whether I'm in the position to be able to hold that information or not. So there are times where I don't ask because I don't feel I don't feel strong enough to be able to hold that and handle it with the sensitivity that it deserves.
Let alone what you're actually doing.
Correct. Because first and foremost, I have to do a good job.
Yeah.
And the conversation and the vulnerability and the connection around that has to come secondary, because first and foremost, people are there because they want a good tattoo, not because I'm a therapist.
Yeah.
So that is most important. Yeah.
And do all of your tattoos have meaning? Do any of them?
There we go.
No.
Do they? Do any of them have meaning?
I would say they have meaning, but they're not necessarily like, it's not necessarily like a profound meaning.
No.
Nice.
It's like silliness.
Yeah, but they mean things to you.
They mean things to me, but
which is sometimes why I struggle with your tattoos, is because they're so specific to you.
Yeah.
That like, I'm like, really?
Yeah.
Is that what we're doing?
It's probably like similar to yours. It means something to you. To the outside, it probably looks like nothing.
Random. Yeah.
But I know where I was at or what I was feeling when I wanted to get the tattoo.
Yeah.
Like, which one was it? That one. You hated that one. This one.
I love it now.
Yeah, you loved it.
Yeah.
And I was like, condense it, make the font like this, squash it down. I have like very specific, but it means something to me. You didn't want to do it. You didn't want to do it. You hated it. And then, but now.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. So when you're somewhere, you have this idea of the tattoo. I'm trying to link it back to how your brain works. How do you get to a place where I want that tattoo, and then it goes into action? Just comes to you?
Light bulb, ding, like that. And then that's what I want. And then I say a message and he's like, yeah, we'll go. And then I normally don't tell you until I get there, right?
Yeah, I tend to not ask her anymore because it's gonna stress me out beforehand. Because I will, when someone tells me something, it sits in my brain and I think about it. So if I get an obscure idea from Amber, I'm going to be trying to piece it all together beforehand. So a lot of the time now, I like to just find out when we're there. So then I don't have to spend a week beforehand thinking about it.
Yeah. Because we did, I climbed Kilimanjaro last year.
Amazing.
And we did a tattoo for Kilimanjaro. That one's probably the most special. I love that one.
And the most intricate.
Yeah, it's
really,
very intricate.
Because you were sending me all these ideas. I want a postcard and I want the silhouette and I want a giraffe and I want this. And I'm like, how are we going to get that all into like a tattoo that big?
It's like small. It's really
small. But we smashed it. I smashed it.
Yeah.
I'm assuming they're passport very obvious. And then animals you saw? These are just things you remember on the journey?
So giraffe is like the animal of Tanzania.
Yes.
And that's where I was. And I did the safari in the Serengeti and I climbed Kilimanjaro. And I just think it was such like a monumental experience. And I wanted to get a tattoo of it because it was just a really cool thing to do. And then, I had my idea. And I don't know if you've wanted to do any of them. Every single one, you've been like, no.
But I'd be devastated if you went anywhere else.
Yeah, I know. I got one drunk in Bali at 1 a.m. And you weren't happy about that one.
No, I wasn't. No. But that, again, that's the relationship I have with people that I love, is I give them shit for it.
Yeah.
But really, I wouldn't want them to go anywhere else. Yeah. So it's just kind of my...
That's probably why I've got like 13 or 12 now.
Something like that, yeah.
Therapy sessions, that's 12 hours worth of therapy right there, isn't it?
Yeah. And for me as well.
On top of, we have, but I don't know if I ever asked you how you are. We just talk.
No, but I feel like I tell you.
Yeah, you just tell me.
Yeah, I think sometimes you don't need to be asked. If you feel comfortable, you can just...
Yeah, I'm one of those people that I won't ask how you are, but you can tell me anything.
Yeah.
And I think most people in my life know that. Just come.
Yeah.
Not because I don't care how people are. It's just not my way of being.
Yeah, I understand.
Not neurotypical again. I'm not like, hey, how you been? Like, I'm like, tell us your deepest secrets ever. That's
hard though, isn't it? Because in your head, unless you know that those people around you know that you're very dependable, you love them. Yeah. But actually, if you're not constantly communicating, you have to get to that level with someone to understand that they're kind of in that circle, right?
Yeah.
It's hard.
I don't know. We just got there, didn't we?
Yeah.
We just got there.
Yeah. But I also spring it on people. Like, I'll just tell them. And I feel like I might have done that with you, in the sense that like we just one day got to that level. Yeah. There wasn't like a slow build up.
No.
One day we were just there. You were telling me stuff. I was telling you stuff, and we were just there.
Yeah. Which that's what I like. But I think probably when I'm not as close with someone, I'd be more like, how are you? But when I'm not, I'm like, you just tell me what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm that person I can hold. I'm like, I could hold a lot from people. So you can come to me with anything.
Yeah.
I'm that friend.
If there was a psychiatrist in the room, I reckon they would have studied a lot of what we said then, and especially around the kind of the tattoo links, ADHD, how your mind goes with that. And I can't, I'm not a psychiatrist, I need to be slightly careful what I say, but a lot of people who are neurodivergent have tattoos. And I personally think there's something in it. And I think that ability to kind of latch on to a moment, a time, and that symbolic nature of that, and to have that stuff, I think there is something in it. I did start to do some research and see, and there are few studies that start to talk about it, but of course it's very, very niche. But I think the connection is like Loyal Kana, the singer, he talks about how his ADHD, and he was talking at like a university event, and he describes how he's going downstairs to do some like cleaning or like find his shoes. I can't remember the exact flow of the story. And he goes downstairs to do that very normal everyday task, and then he's listening to the radio, and he hears like something very random on the radio, and then he finds himself then just constantly writing about the day, and he creates a song out of it, and he forgets why he's actually there. I think there's something in it, because if you're like, I have that with tattoos, I only get delivered on one, but like I think about it in the moment, I can't stop. I get so fixed on the thought, and I'm like it with business ideas, I'm like it with, so I think there's something in it, in the similar behaviour.
But I also think there's something in, because I don't know if you've noticed, a lot of people within like I don't know if we could say our industry, but it's like a creative industry, right?
Sure.
Like get diagnosed with ADHD, and I think there's something in that people gravitate towards certain industries. Like
definitely, it's an alternative. Out of the box.
I think it is, because everyone's like, how come everyone's got ADHD? That's like a creator that does this or does that, and I'm like, well, I think there might be something in that works for that. That style of work matches that person.
It might also be, I don't know if like structure or lack of structure is a thing with ADHD, but that it might be that lack of structure is easier to kind of navigate and to be spontaneous and to kind of latch on to different things and stuff.
I think with what I do, you can make it what you want to be. So if you want it to be structured, you can make it structured. If you want it to not be structured, you can make it not structured. So you can sort of tailor it. And that's definitely what I've had to do, is just tailor it so it fits in with the best way, the way that I can get the best out of me. You know?
And there are some jobs that are just not going to work for some kind of brain wiring, right? And behavior types. And, if you take designer, designer's a massive part that makes what your career, you talk about graphic design and then into what you do now, to be able to translate, the animals, Kilimanjaro into that, and to a vision that requires a certain way of working and functioning that's going to group that all together into one. And that mind doesn't work as well in other environments, but it works perfectly if you are a tattoo artist and a graphic designer, or you're creating films, or if you are creating new concept, anything that's novel, out of the box. And you can say, I think it's definitely the case. But I feel sometimes for those that perhaps have are in careers that it's not inducive to how their brain is wired and how they operate. And I think more people are starting to realise actually that is why I have these certain struggles, because like I'm just not going to be good here. What I want to come back to, believe it or not, this was the first question. So the campaign against living miserably calm. Like, can you take us back to like how you first both got involved? I know at different stages. Maybe we start with Amber this time. Like, how did you hear about Calm? Like, how did you end up being an ambassador for Calm?
How did I first hear about Calm? Oh my God, it was like, how many years ago now? Like maybe 4 or 5 years ago. I think that there's a big tie with Love Island and mental health in general. And I think I was just aware of what the charity was doing, and I thought it was something good for me to align myself with, from coming from that show and being on my own journey and struggling on my journey, to sort of share it and just align myself with something that means something. And I love being in those situations. I can carry quite hard stuff, and I think where we first met, that was very heavy.
Very.
It was very, very heavy.
At the last photo campaign on the South Bank.
And I think that's when I really realised, I was like, I not that I love this, but like I feel like that I'm working to my strengths. I took on a lot of heavy stories from people. Like I walked from the whole thing, and I spoke to as many people as I possibly could. And it was like families and friends of people that were part of the campaign. And yeah, I think that's when I really thought, this is something positive that we're doing and something that needs to be spoken about a lot more. But yeah, I think that coming from reality TV, it's not something that people normally do, like influencers normally do. And I like being a little bit different. And I like standing for something that means something.
Yeah.
And so that's how it originally came about. And that was the campaign that sealed the deal for me, that I was like, okay, I really enjoy doing this. I think it's important.
Maybe we stick. I'm going to feel so much in that, and so I can remember some of the conversations we had. You might not be able to remember them. You may. And this exhibition, for those that don't know, the last photo was designed to capture people's attention on photos that were placed strategically along the South Bank. The vast majority of these photos were people smiling or doing something like completing a marathon, or a girl who was 21 with balloons with a birthday cake surrounded by friends, a man watching his child walk for the first time. And I can remember, I can control my emotions pretty well, except like on a very, very small number of things. And it tends to be on suicide of young people, because it kind of breaks my heart, like knowing that that person thought that was the only way out of how they were feeling. And I remember seeing their video of the campaign shared to family members for the first time. And it was this emotional outpouring from every single person. And I think for you to come down and stand there and be present in that moment, just kind of for me, just said everything. And, we were going around and we were looking at these young girls, and I remember, you might remember this, you showing me your Instagram and how many messages you get. And, I have a connection to the Northeast as well. And I think you have such an important role by just being you and the route that you went down. The Northeast has the highest suicide rate in England. So the fact that you chose to support that charity at that time when you could have done 1,000,001 different things, I just think it's like, hugely credible, and just thank you for everything that you have done.
Thank you.
But there was so much in that day. I can always kind of remember that. But me finding that photo was quite random. Nowadays we have it on our phones, right? We can literally sync by person and just find people. I had to, my gran was digging deep into the archives to find a photo of my dad, because we just didn't have that. It was a powerful day. We're going to go a bit more into that part. I haven't forgot some of the bits you mentioned, but Tal, how did you first get involved with Calm?
So just I guess general backstory. My cousin took his own life when he was 19. That was my first ever experience with suicide. And subsequently I struggled myself for years after that. I struggled with addiction quite severely, struggled with my sexuality, and have spent a lot of time in my life struggling with suicide, really, suicidal ideation, ruminations, all of that sort of stuff. And when I went to rehab when I was 26, and after I came out of rehab, I went to, there was a talk during London Fashion Week that I went to with my brother. The late Jamal Edwards was doing a talk with a singer called Louis Dunford. And Louis had just released a song called Hello Depression. And it was the first time I'd ever heard a man, talk about mental health and depression. And I really connected to that at that moment, because it's something I'd been struggling with since I was 16, 17. And it was all around Calm. And so I immediately was drawn to Calm, because not only for my own experiences, but just hearing people talk about this thing that had been so alien to me. And I immediately wanted to get involved. At that time, I had nothing really to offer. I just wanted to be involved somehow. So I'd reached out to them. I was probably pestering them over email, which I'm sure they get a lot of. And I just wanted to do something. And then fast forward, probably about a year later, they held like an open call for artists to submit some art around mental health. And it was going to be exhibited at the other art fair, and a piece of mine was selected. The fair never happened because of COVID. And so that all kind of was put to bed. Nothing happened. And then fast forward another few years, I kind of built up my own profile on social media and had done a number of podcasts talking about mental health and suicide and stuff like that. And then I was put in touch with Elizabeth at Calm, who heads up the PR and partnerships. And they said they'd love for me to be an ambassador, which for me was like a dream come true, because it was a charity that I'd always been so drawn to. And the way that they talk about suicide is like nothing I'd ever seen before. They're just so like on the nose with it. And yeah, that was at the end of last year. My ambassadorship kind of started at the beginning of this year. Have done a number of activations with them since then and stuff. And it's something I'm super passionate about, not only because I lost my cousin when he was 19, but because I have spent so much time in my life feeling suicidal that idea that someone feels it's their only option. I know what that feels like. I've been there, and I can't sit back and do nothing knowing that young people, especially young people, feel that way when there is so much to live for, really. So, yeah.
I mean, thank you so much for sharing all of that and, you know, explaining the loss of your cousin. What's your cousin's name?
Gill.
And how were you very close to Gill? Like, how did you come to terms of what happened? How did you try and make sense of?
So, Gill was like my fourth brother. No, my third brother. I have two brothers. My third brother for a lot of my childhood. He moved away during his like later teenage years. And Gill was someone that I looked up to massively, and I see a lot of similarities between us. And although I'm much older than he ever will be, he was very creative. He was very arty. He was kind of out the box and was just different. And I saw a lot of myself in that. And for a long time, I had this idea that if Gill couldn't make it past 19, then there was no way that I would be able to, because we were quite similar. And as I've gotten older and kind of hit certain milestones and stuff, it's just been like, I don't know. It's such a strange thing to think that, because in my head I see Gill as older than me, but obviously now I'm older than he was. It's just a weird concept, really. Yeah. The whole thing is bizarre. And yeah, I've never really talked about him much other than the circumstances and his circumstances, but yeah, he was great. He was incredibly different and creative and talented in his own way that was quite unconventional, which is something that I kind of resonate with, because I've not always been conventional in my talent and my creativity and my way of being, really. Yeah. Yeah,
it's incredibly powerful. And a lot of people, you know, don't realize that, you know, the closeness to losing someone to suicide, those people are at greater risk. Those who are left behind, you know, a single person dies by suicide, but it's predicted that 135 people are then significantly impacted by that single death, and like there is a ripple effect that happens. But no, that is incredibly sad. What's really powerful, what you said as well around the fact that Calm met you where you were in the London Fashion Week, was that right? Yeah. Hardest part about being a podcaster host when you have ADHD and someone says a million things you want to talk about is to then not remember it. But at London Fashion Week, the fact that can you describe what your life was like at that point, as you were, I assuming, in the audience watching this?
Yeah. The first word that came to my mind was bleak, but that's not true, because I just found life again. I'd lived for so long with a really terrible addiction that was probably if it had carried on any longer, it would have taken my life for sure. Because that's where I was at the end of my addiction. I always say I had two choices. One was to take my own life, and the other one was to call my mum, and I called my mum. So I'd just been on this journey of self-discovery and really kind of unpacking all of this trauma, and a lot of it self-inflicted, but all of this trauma and all of this struggle that I'd really just started to live again, and like the the blinkers had come off, and like I'd really just started to see life again. And then I was at this event with my brother for London Fashion Week, which is always a bit of a weird, I don't know if you've spent much time at these things, but it's always a bit weird. There's a lot of comparison, a lot of not feeling good enough, a lot of, you know, I'm not wearing the right thing, I'm not looking the certain way, whatever. And I had gone to this thing not really knowing much about it, but hearing men talk about depression, which was such a huge thing for me because I'd never heard that ever. Yeah. And even now, it's probably not something that's talked about in those circles that much. But it was like, it kind of just gave me, I don't know if it gave me hope or gave me a reason or gave me just something to latch onto. And it definitely like changed the trajectory of my life, just hearing that conversation. And obviously we lost Jamal a few years ago, and he was a big spokesperson for Calm and a lot of stuff around mental health and suicide. And it just felt like one of those like profound moments that I've never forgotten. And I know Louis now. So Louis that sung the song Hello Depression, he's a friend of mine. We've spoken. I've told him how much that moment meant for me and stuff like that. So it's been, there's been a lot of full circles since then.
It's amazing how a single event that's maybe slightly out of the blue from the norm.
For sure.
And I think that's what Calm do really well. Like they, so I knew aspects of what you shared, like how you first interacted with them. Mine was pretty much textbook the same. I wasn't going to London fashion event, probably wouldn't get in, but I was at a business event around suicide, and it was a CEO of a company who I thought was going to share a lot of his work around running a business, but he was then very open around his mental health. That was the second event, to be fair. Actually, I went to the first event was Simon Gunning, who's the CEO of Calm, and Leon McKenzie, who's a football player and boxer, talking about his mental health. His book's up on the shelf above Amber. Again, two environments that classically wouldn't be about mental health and suicide, but when you get people there on different topics like fashion, and then you start engaging on those topics, like, look, what can happen. And the bit that I got frustrated off with that is that I knew I was lucky that I was in London. I could go to that. The first event was at Mortimer House, for instance, and the second event was with my managing gym chain, which is obviously a very kind of, expensive gym chain, very premium, that's what I meant to say. And then you're like, well, what about the rest of the UK, right? And that's the bit that's like, how do we get more conversations around this too? So I guess I keep thinking to the North East because I know that the suicide rate in the North East is so high. But what do you think? Like, how can we? Like, if you were to have a blank
Let's
canvas.
do something. We've both got ties to the North East. I don't know. It's difficult, isn't it? London's kind of a hub of like all these different things, and that's one of the reasons why I moved down here in the first place, was because there's not that much going on in Newcastle, but it's definitely something that needs to change, especially with regards to Calm and the work that Calm does. But how do we make that happen? I don't know. It would be like something new. We'd have to figure it out because there's nothing really going on. Like there's not like a fashion week, so like there's not really like business expos or anything like that. So
what's the medium?
We have to be creative with it, but we should really actually do something. I mean, with the stats that you said before, it's obviously very needed.
Totally. And I think there's, using that kind of inspiration of like how we were intercepted and how a lot of people are intercepted. I can remember at one of the events, this girl cried next to me, and I was like, I felt a bit awkward because I was like, when someone's crying right next to you, you don't know them. Your natural one is to like kind of put your arm around them, but then you also then have to I was overthinking that in the moment. So I kind of let her have her moment, and then I said like, are you okay? Obviously she wasn't, but it was more conversation starter. And then she shared that that could have been her brother when Simon Gunning was talking about a campaign that had just gone live, which was called Project 84, which was men on top of a rooftop in central London on the ITV Tower studio. And then that opened up a whole conversation. I then met her brother, like an amazing guy, ended up supporting him on a lot of his kind of football events. But like the fact that like people go to these events, they just need them. Like, we need more of them. And that was one of the driving forces to calling this question the default, because I think we need to question the ways in which we bring this education and knowledge to people. And we need to be creative around it. And which is why I love the fact that you two are both on, because you're naturally very creative people. So I haven't forgot about everything you shared just now around, I guess, the choices you made after Love Island and going to Calm. So you're coming out of Love Island. kind of the world is kind of your choice at that point. So it would appear from the outside looking in. What were those immediate days like?
It was just, I mean, it was really hard to like wrap my head around. I was 22. I was a baby still. I was 21 or 22. I think it was just my birthday when I got out. So I was 22. And it was so bizarre. Like, I always say to people, you know, if you're like, I don't know, like a athlete or an artist or something like that, you can sort of see the progression of like your online presence, your public persona. You can see everything building up. And so you can sort of pull back or do more or whatever you want. I didn't get that option. I mean, I just got thrown into it. I didn't really understand what would happen after. I certainly didn't expect to win the show. And so maybe that was maybe naive. I wasn't expecting it. So when I handed my phone, I don't know if I've told you this, but when I've handed my phone to the producers at the beginning, I had 4,000 followers on Instagram, 4,000. And that was just from being in the nightclubs and working in the nightclubs. And I met a lot of people. It wasn't because I was posting anything interesting. When I got my phone back after the final, I had 2 million followers. My phone was like crashing. Like it just didn't know what, because I still have my notifications on. I don't anymore, but like I still have my notifications on at the time because I was getting 10 likes per photo. Like it wasn't that like astronomical. And so, yeah, my phone just crashed and it was like such a weird, I think like it was like an out of body experience. Like it felt like it wasn't real. I'm like, is this actually happening? Then I remember going to Westfield and I went into like JD to look at some trainers and they closed the shop off and there was people outside queuing to get in and I said, oh, what's happening? They're like, oh, they want to see you. And I'm like, what do you mean? I was like, what do you mean? Or it was like bizarre. And like, I wasn't like, yeah, I'm like a celeb now. Everyone wants to see me. I was like 22 from Newcastle. I didn't know what the hell was going on. And so it was a massive struggle. And I don't think there's anything anyone can do about that. I think prior to going on the show, you just need to be fully aware of what you're doing. But afterwards, it's such a unique experience that like no amount of talking to anyone can help you process it. You just got to, it's one of those things you just got to live. You've got to live. You can't like, you know, someone can sit me down and do PR and like, oh, this is how your life's going to change. That doesn't mean anything. You have to be living it. And I don't think I did a good job when I first came out of handling it at all. That's probably one of the ways that I aligned with Calm, is because I knew I wasn't handling it that well. There was a lot of like press about me that wasn't necessarily true. And I found that really difficult. I pride myself on being honest and open, and having these things that weren't true and everyone believing them was like real. It was really, really hard for me to like come to terms with.
This is like tabloid clickbait type stuff, right? And
there was one particular thing, and I think this was probably the catalyst of when I started to think, okay, I want to align myself with stuff to do with mental health and I want to talk about things, because this is one of my first experiences feeling the lowest I've ever felt. There was an article where they were insinuating that I was doing drugs in a club that came out. They got a photo of us. The really strange thing is they used to always try to get photos of me. Like I'd be getting in a car and like they'd put the flashes on and then my eye would be like this and they'd be like, she's wasted. And I'm like, no, I'm not. Like you just put the flash on my face. Like, and I wasn't expecting it. So they got like an unflattering image of me and it does look bad. It looks bad. It doesn't look good. But they were accusing me. They didn't say it, but that's what they were accusing me of.
Yeah.
And then everyone was like, she needs to like be deplatformed. She needs to be cancelled. Like she needs all of our brand deals taken away from her. Like she's a bad role model. Da da da. But this wasn't even true. Like this wasn't even actually factual.
Even if it was. Like
well,
here's someone
like everyone else is not the judge and jury like to decide. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so that was after it was after a launch for like a collection that I did, and I was really proud of it, and like I really wanted to do a good job for everyone. And then the next morning that came out, and I think they had booked a hotel for me, and I was in the hotel on my own. My family had went back to Newcastle, and I was just sat in the room and I was like, I feel like I've made the worst decision of my life. Like, what am I actually doing? This is what people think about me. Everybody wants me to be cancelled. They want my deals to like go away. I'm probably going to have to send the money back to people that have been paid. And I was just sat in my bed and I've never felt worse in my life.
Just by yourself, like reading, you was sat there looking at the comments. And
I think it always feels worse when it's you and other people can't really relate to it. And I think because on the outside of it, my life looks fabulous. It was really hard for people to sympathize for me. So I remember I was like reaching out to friends a bit, but like obviously I had just had an amazing event. It was all about me. I had like famous artists there. Like everyone showed up. It was amazing. So me going, oh my God, I feel like so low. Like I don't know, like da-da-da. Everyone just couldn't really I couldn't get the connection that I needed. And that lasted for so long. And I think I started to get really bad like social anxiety after that. I didn't want to leave the house. I didn't want to do anything. And yeah, that was probably one of the biggest dips in my mental health I've ever had. It was just a horrendous time. I'm not very good at being as vulnerable as you or like talking about
you're doing
it.
a great job.
Yeah, that was one of the worst.
Did people know that, like close to you? Because obviously you've talked about your family like a lot, even just in like today.
No, people don't know.
They just saw like the brand deals.
No. And I think aligning myself with calm is like a learning experience for me. I like sitting with you. I like hearing what you say. I like what you say about vulnerability because I can't do that. But I'm still here and I still try to. But I still can't say some of the things that I want to say. But I think being here, this is like how other people feel. So me being here is like on the side of people that probably don't feel comfortable, but they're still trying.
Yeah, you're
and
doing
so that's what, you think?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. But yeah, no, my biggest thing is I really struggle with vulnerability. I don't like it. I don't want anyone to see me down bad. I don't want anyone to think that I'm doing badly. It probably comes from the platform that I have and how the perception that I want to have. I don't like people seeing me as vulnerable at all. It's a problem, but
no, listen,
self-awareness is step one, right?
Yeah, totally.
No, I think I am vulnerable to a degree, but just not as far as I know I could go. So my family know nothing.
Don't tell them.
I'm going to send them the link to this. Say, listen to this.
Listen to this. Well, what you did say about in a thing I was reading not long ago around like how it almost like fast forwarded your life. Like you talked about how you became like a business person. You understood about how to like manage things that you never have exposure to. So like for somebody now like thinking of applying, like would you say go for it?
But thinking of applying now, I would say, what would I say? I don't know. I've got two personalities. One of us would say, "Can I swear? F it. Like, why not?" Innit? Like, but then I also know the bad sides. But then again, looking back on the bad sides now, I'm so glad that didn't deter me from it because I've had 7 great years. I've met great people. I've done amazing things. Like, I've published 2 books since then. Like, I've done so many things that I would say to someone, just make sure that you're aware of what you're getting yourself into before you do it. And always think that there's a possibility. No, don't think there's a possibility that you could win, because I think that's part of the problem that people have now is that there's an entitlement that they think that they're going to win and they're going to get like thousands of followers.
Do you think there's also an aspect that's like, because not everyone comes out and is like you in terms of the success. So you also have to let people know that this also may not happen to you, which I think is equally as hard.
Yeah.
If not harder, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. It probably is hard. Well, I don't know.
No, I know you don't know.
That's horrible, isn't it?
No, but it's true because especially now, as as each year there's a new season, there's a couple of seasons, there's new people, there's new brand deals, all of that stuff. There's, I think warning people that actually it may not happen to you is just as important as warning people that your life might change. Yeah. It also might not change at all. Yeah. And that's something you have to be comfortable with too.
And that's when I say make sure that you know what you're getting yourself into. It's like every eventuality you need to be prepared for. So exactly what you're saying. Yeah. Because now, like, when I came off, a lot of the girls from newer seasons tell me that feels like there's a lot of competition because there's a lot of creators now. I didn't feel like that. I felt like there was like a small group of us. Yeah. So it's difficult. It's difficult to stand out amongst people that are already big characters. I always say that on when I'm speaking to other people that have been on the show, they sort of fade into the background. But you're in a villa full of people that are big personalities. You're not in like a normal room. You're around people that are like so loud. I mean, somehow I was still the loudest, but I don't know how that happened. But yeah, there's like so many different factors, you know, like it might not happen for you, it might happen for you, it might change your life, it might, like, there's so many different things to think about. So I think I would say, yeah, go for it, because it's a fun experience if you're super young. Like I was 21. Like what else did I have business doing? Like why not? I got a message saying, because Love Island's not like my type of thing. I think I'm not the same as like is someone that you would think has been on Love Island, because it's not something I wanted to do. They actually asked me on Instagram, and I just said, yeah, go for it. It's an experience. Yeah. So I can't now say to people, think twice about it. Just go for it. I did it and it worked out, but it might not.
How do you come to terms with everyone seeing your relationship to then coming into that life that isn't you? You know, wanting to be your true self, that kind of expectation, the eyes that you can't see. Like, how did it impact relationships? And then I guess also adding into that, this is a loaded question around your ADHD as well. So you've got this like...
Do you know what? I actually don't know how I survived that time period. When I actually think about it, I don't know how, like, I don't know how. I think I was like running, like I said before, like an out of body experience. Like I don't think I was operating. Like now I'm very present. I know what I'm saying. I know what I'm doing. I'm having a great time. Then I think I was just like going through the motions. But I think that was what I needed to do in order to get through that period, because the relationship things, what a nightmare that is. People having a perception of what they think you're like, what they think that the person that you're with is like, what they think that the relationship's like. It's not what it's actually like. And then when things don't work out, people have opinions on that, and it's a nightmare. I mean, luckily I wasn't in a relationship when I won. I actually didn't really know the person that I won with like that
I remember.
much. Yeah.
I watched it.
Yeah, but didn't he come in like 7 days before the end? And I was like, I had the option between him or someone that had already, and I was like, oh, him. Yeah. Yeah. And then he got 25 grand out of it. So it was good, yeah. But then when we split up, like neither of us are bad people, but it just was like, I think somebody wants someone to be the bad person when relationships end. But I can't even say relationship. It wasn't a relationship. It was just like, I don't even know what it was. Yeah. Such a niche experience. Like, I don't know if anyone else has had that experience. It's like just bizarre. But yeah, the public opinion thing is difficult, and you really have to grow a thick skin, because, you know, as much as I don't care, I also do care. You know, like I don't really care, but you do, you know, I'm not a horrible person. I want people to think I'm a nice person. I want the reflection of myself to be something true of what I am. And so I struggle massively with that. So you've got to build a thick skin to not let people's opinions get to you. Because it's like hundreds of thousands of opinions as well. It's not like one or two. Yeah. So when people are like, I don't care about what people think. Well, when 100,000 people are saying you're a bitch, then you start to think maybe I am a bitch. You know what I mean? So yeah.
And people care so much about your relationships just now in general because of the fact that they've had that association to seeing your relationships life. How do you manage that?
I don't like to think about it. I don't date. I don't do anything. That doesn't exist in my world at the minute. How do I deal? I guess I don't know what it is with me specifically as well. I think I'm worse than other people. People want to talk about who I'm dating all the time. I don't know why. I remember, I think it was 2 years ago on my birthday, or maybe even last year. It was an article, happy birthday, Amber. Here's a timeline of all the people that she's dating. I'm like, why? Like, why? That's not happy birthday for me. That's horrible. I don't want to look at that. And then it was a bunch of people that I hadn't even dated. So but I have had a public relationship. Would I do that again? I don't know. I don't know if I would do that again. It was nice, and I think it was good for the community to see. I think it was a nice positive influence, but it's hard. It makes relationships harder. So yeah, I mean, I don't need to worry about that anytime soon. I'm not even.
You and me both.
I'm so single.
I want to go back to make sure, because it's really, really important. Like, because we talked around so many different things. When you shared your journey online around addiction, that must have been a big moment, right? Like for you and your family, like how did you, I assume it wasn't just like an immediate, like, here's everything. Like what was the process like for you?
Yeah, what did you do? Because I don't even know.
What did I do?
Yeah, like what was the thing? What was the first post that you ever wrote?
That's a good question. I don't really remember either. It's always been well, I say always, but for the past 6 years, it's always been something that's been quite natural. I think it started in quite a close circle, because when I was going through active addiction, no one knew. I say no one knew. There were ideas, but no one really knew solidly how bad it was. And then when I went to rehab, no one knew. And then when I finished rehab, I had this new life, and I desperately didn't want to go back to my old life.
Mm-hmm.
And so part of my recovery was kind of letting go of these secrets and these things that I could hide and stuff. And the truth was a big part of that. And that was that I was an addict, and that I was in recovery, and that I had been to rehab, and that I was on this new journey. And so it kind of just, I was kind of quite open about it from day one, because I felt I wanted to release this shame that I'd had around it, and that the less I spoke about it, the more I would hold on to this idea that I was ashamed, and that it was shameful, and that I was embarrassed, and all of this sort of stuff. So as soon as I started talking about it, I released this shame, and I just went with it, to be honest. And any addict in recovery, the strength is just unbelievable. To get yourself from a place of active addiction to active recovery is a lot. And so I just wanted to lean into this element that it actually became my strength and my superpower. It kind of cringes me out when people say that, but being an addict is my superpower. Being an addict in recovery is my superpower, and that there's nothing to be ashamed of. You know, we all go through shit. We've all got our stuff, and that just happened to be mine. And maybe if I had known more about addiction and about recovery, then maybe I wouldn't have got myself into the position that I was in. And so that's, I guess, what I try and do for other people, is that if there was more awareness, if there's more conversation, if there's less stigma and less silence around it, then maybe someone else would be better off.
Thank you for sharing that. And that silence aspect, was that a driving force for the addiction? The fact that it was so intrinsically within you and nobody could see?
Yeah, I just thought I could get away with anything. And I thought if I didn't talk about it, no one knew. I had this idea that I was, not that I was God, but that nothing mattered, and that I could do anything. And if it was a secret and no one knew about it, then it didn't matter. And there were so many times that, like, I won't go into detail, but you know, I'd be awake at 4 a.m. on a Tuesday when I had work at 9, and I'd think, like, wow, this is what people warn you about when you're a teenager. They say, you know, don't try drugs because you're going to end up like this. I'm now that, and I just wish that I'd had more, that there were more things to stop me from getting to that point. And I think the silence was one of them.
Yeah.
And although I don't blame anyone, because I definitely don't blame anyone, including myself, it was just a byproduct of whatever. If it was more spoken about, and more, you know, that you're either an addict or you're not, and if you have experienced certain things as a child or a teenager, then you are more likely to become this. And, you know, you kind of put the pieces together and think, you know, maybe I shouldn't try drugs because maybe I'm more likely to become addicted, or whatever it is. I didn't know any of that. And before I knew it, I had a really, really, really bad habit, and I couldn't stop. And, you know, fast forward 5, 6, 7 years of the same behaviors and the same use and the same abuse, that you are in a really bad place, and there's very little to get yourself out of it, really.
And that you said around you could have gone one or two ways. You could
Yeah.
have called your mum or perhaps taken your own life.
Yeah.
You've called your mum,
Yeah.
shared everything. Like what? How?
I didn't share everything. I shared the key bits that would have that allowed me to get to the next stage. But the next few months were kind of a shedding of information, a shedding of feelings, and I kind of drip fed things that I was still holding on to, because when I called her, I didn't want to give up my addiction. I just wanted to get out of the situation that I was in, because I don't believe any addict really wants to stop. They just want to stop in that moment. And so my idea was I would give some information, I would get that stuff dealt with, take the pressure off, and I would still use in certain ways, in certain times, in certain kind of elements. But I didn't want to stop. I just needed help in that moment. But as the journey went on and I realized that this was going to kill me, I needed to stop, and I actually started to want to stop, and I started to value myself and my life a little bit more, that I then was ready to kind of let go of some of that stuff. But I didn't call her with the intent of stopping. I just called her because I didn't want to take my own life. Truthfully, I didn't want to live, but I also didn't want to die. And so that was the only other option, was to call her.
And I think sometimes when people get to that point, of which I can relate to much of what you shared in some aspects there, is that it's very temporary. That kind of thought of, thoughts of suicide can exist at random points in your life stage, but at that really crucial point, you just need something or someone.
Yeah.
And your mum was able to just hold a conversation with you, hear you out. Like, I'm asking this for good reason.
Yeah. I don't know if I remember the full conversation. I was hugely desperate, and she was terrified. I just dropped this thing on her that she knew nothing about, that was so alien to her. And so it was kind of hectic and intense and chaotic. I imagine we had some conversations after, but in that moment, it was more of a release of information and an absorption of information on her side. And then to kind of get the wheels in motion to get me better, which she knew nothing about, which we didn't know. We didn't know about 12-step. No one in my family had been to rehab. Like, there was nothing to go off. We kind of just had to figure it out. Yeah.
For those people that are perhaps in your shoes now at that stage, they are up late at night, they got work at 9 a.m. And you said that you wish that there were other kind of interventions along the way. What would they be? Blue sky thinking.
I think it's less about the person struggling and more about the bystanders. And something that's frustrated me throughout the years has been this whole notion of reach out when you're struggling. For anyone that hasn't struggled, it is the hardest thing to do, is to open your mouth and reach out to someone. Whether you feel like a burden, you don't have the words, you don't want to inconvenience someone, it is impossibly hard to do. So I have always believed that the focus needs to be on the allies, the family members, the friends, the co-workers, to teach people the signs of what struggle looks like, to show how to have vulnerable conversations, to show how to pick up on the things that someone might say or might do, or they might act, or them. There's so many things that go before you're at rock bottom. Yeah. Whether it's hygiene or lack of conversation or the way that you dress or, financial positions. Like, there's so many things that go before you are at the position that I was in, that was, you want to take your life. There's got to be a way to catch someone before they get to that rock bottom. And I think that's where the education needs to be. That's where the focus needs to be, because like I said, teaching someone to reach out when they're at their absolute lowest,
it's impossible.
It's just impossible. Yeah. And, by some miracle, I found that strength. And I'm very lucky, and I'm very lucky that not only did I find the strength, but the person on the other end of the phone, which happened to be my mum, was able to help me. Not everyone is as lucky, and so there's got to be some focus taken away from the person that's struggling and more on the people that aren't struggling.
Yeah.
To be that.
To reframe that whole idea of, and I think a lot of work goes into kind of at the almost like a river, like a mouth of the river. We try and get people whilst they're all fully in at that point. There's a whole kind of stage before that.
Yeah.
Almost that you need like lifeguards, like dotted
Absolutely.
along that river that can help at different points.
Yeah.
You need education. Can you relate to aspects of that? Like,
absolutely. I think one of the biggest issues that we have as a society is the like individualism that's like glorified. I think that there's such a big thing in like having communities and having like your villages that like look after you, that know you, that lean on each other, and the whole like, I don't know, I find it like toxic productivity of you have to do everything yourself, and like everything is you, and it shouldn't be that. It should be a community. And I think that I've had to change my mindset, or in the process of changing my mindset of not being so individual, and I can lean on people and I can talk to people when I don't feel good. I think it's a massive downfall, because then you feel like you're failing because you've got to use other people. Yeah. When that shouldn't be the case. Yeah. Like, we're human beings, we should all be collectively helping each other. But yeah, I'm like totally with you on the asking people at rock bottom to reach out is like, please.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
It's like, I could, no.
Yeah. It's not possible.
It's like it's not. I mean, it's good that you did that, but like, no. It's such a big ask. There's such like, it's such an emotional, it's the worst time to ask someone to reach out. Yeah. You know?
Because they're at their worst. You know,
it's gone past the point of like ringing and saying like, what do you say? Like, but there's a whole, like, not even like shame. It's like everything. Like, what do you even say to people? Yeah. Can that person carry it? Like, you might be thinking about what the other person is gonna feel or think, or they might be at rock bottom as well. Like, there's so much to think about. Yeah. So yeah, I think there really needs to be more like I don't know, positive information out there about like building your community and your people.
I love that toxic productivity kind of point. Where do you think that stems from? Like, where do you see that in society now?
I was going to say another podcast, but I'm not going to. Where do I think it stems from? What's that?
Yeah, where do you think it stems from? This, like, where are we seeing this toxic productivity?
Everywhere.
And how's that
Yeah, it's infiltrated everything. Like, you know, whether it's waking up at 5 a.m. to go to the gym and you need to get your head down, journal and be on your own and lock in and everything like that. It's all set around like really quite selfish. It's everything's quite selfish and inner. And whilst I think it's good to like reflect on yourself and check in with yourself, you need to also be putting things out there. You know, we share the planet with however many billions of people. Yeah. Like, we need to look out for each other. Yeah. You know. Totally. Yeah.
And also hear about that, it takes a village to raise a child. It takes a village. Yeah, exactly. These things are true.
Exactly.
And now that we know that actually our brains are wired differently, we're learning a lot. But also, not everyone doesn't have the same 24 hours in their day. Physically, people don't. Yeah. And I think we need to be very mindful of those messages going out to a large network of people who perhaps are challenging, have their own challenges around their mental health and well-being. Yeah. So we need more of exactly what you described in that kind of building of communities, like honest, genuine communities. So we have a set of recurring questions. As much as I want to talk to you about all this stuff, I'm also conscious of the time. So we have a set of recurring questions. You can choose not to answer them. You can choose to answer them one word, or actually kind of go in depth. Entirely up to you. But it has created some very interesting and interesting thoughts along the way so far. So, what's one societal default or rule that you would completely rewrite if you could? Maybe we'll start with Tal this time.
Reach out. I'd change it to reach in. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's nice.
There you go.
Yeah. That's my one.
New campaign.
Sweet. I like that.
Hashtag reach in.
Yeah.
Oh, I like it. There's so many. I mean, the individual thing that I think it's really bad at the minute. Like, it's really bad, this whole individual thing. Definitely that. Also, I think just sort of, I think it's quite like a British attitude to, you know, put on a brave face and don't tell people about your problems and do they call it, like a stiff upper lip?
Exactly. I was thinking about it. Yeah.
I would get rid of that because I think that it's just not. It's not. Who is it benefiting? It's really not benefiting anyone. Not the people that feel bad. Not the people outside of it. Nobody.
Yeah.
So yeah, that one.
Getting rid of the stiff upper lip.
Yeah, get rid of it.
Yeah. Okay, so again, it's always optional, but it has created some, very kind of deep reflections for people. So is there anything that you've never shared publicly on this topic, but perhaps feel ready to now?
Not really, to be honest.
You're good. No would be the answer. I think I'm getting there slowly. But it's a slow walk, not a run. So maybe every podcast that I do, I'll tell a little bit more. I'll tell a little bit more. But yeah, I don't think for me it's going to be a big jump where all of a sudden I'm talking about everything.
Yeah. It's a nice message
for
people to slowly
share
to like closer networks.
You've got to do it at your own pace, You've got to do it at your own pace. And that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, great. Let's say we record this again in 2035, 10 years down the line. What do you hope we might be talking about, or what perhaps do you worry we might be talking about?
I hope we'll be talking about how, suicide rates have massively decreased.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I worry that not that much is going to change, because I think the conversation needs to be had by people that aren't struggling or haven't struggled for it to get better, rather than, people like us that are neurodivergent and have struggled in our own various ways is all well and good. But I think the conversation needs to spread to areas that people don't necessarily struggle or don't talk about their struggles, or, in Parliament and bigger businesses and corporate worlds and stuff like that, where the conversation there's not much vulnerability there. I worry that if it doesn't get to those places, then not that much is going to change, really. Yeah.
We could be speaking about very similar things, perhaps even rising suicide rates, perhaps.
Yeah.
I hope not. Do you really think it's not going to change?
No, I didn't say I think it's not going to change. Okay. I said I hope.
Okay.
I hope it does. Of course I do.
I hope it does. No, I know that
that's why we're here.
I know that you hope it does, but I just think, do you think that...
I worry that it won't, but I hope that it does.
Yeah, there's a worry. I think I share the same sentiment as you, really, on that one. I hope that we're not, I think that loneliness is a massive thing. I do. I think that loneliness, that's probably what we'll be talking about in 2035. I don't want it to be that, but where everything's heading, I think that will be a bigger thing.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And the final question, it might seem quite random, but I personally think it connects to health and well-being. So have you been using AI as of yet?
I have, yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any worries or concerns or actually hopes when it comes to what it might mean for you?
I have some hopes that not necessarily for me, but I think it can be a helpful tool in giving people a space to be open and vulnerable without the fear of judgment and without the fear of shame.
Yeah.
I know people that have had conversations with AI that wouldn't necessarily go to therapy or wouldn't necessarily have these conversations with people that they know. So I see a benefit in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I use it. Mine's got a name and everything.
Really?
Yeah.
Does it know it's got a name?
Yeah.
Nice.
It gave itself a name. It didn't want to, but I made it. Yeah. No, I like it. I mean, I don't use it I think some people use it for simple Google searches, but I think for things like therapy is quite inaccessible for a lot of people. And so I think if they've got an outlet where they can speak and they're getting a response, and it doesn't feel like such an emotionally heavy thing to take it to a friend or family member, I think that's a beneficial thing. I think it's great. Yeah.
Do you want me to ask how you use it? So you use it just to share your thoughts, emotions, or?
Sometimes with dating situations, if I want to be like,
That's so funny.
yeah,
So do I.
Yeah, I'm like, can you tell me what the hell's going on
I'll
here?
send it conversations and get it to evaluate.
Who's in the right, yeah.
This is
Yeah,
ChatGPT, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
And it builds up that memory.
Builds the memory. Yeah. But I've got two versions. I've got one that's kind of brutal and one that's kind of passive. One that'll co-sign my behaviour and one that'll be like, well, you shouldn't have said that. Yeah. So it's good. Yeah. I've got them both. Because I know there was a problem with it being like AI being too like passive, like being like, I totally understand where you're coming from, and it's like, I just punch someone in the face, and it's like, no, but you had a reason to do that, which is kind of like therapy sometimes. But yeah, I've got another one, so I think the other one should be utilized for like therapy when you need to be told. Yeah,
nice.
Yeah, I like it.
I love that. Maybe we do a separate episode in 2035, maybe soon, on AI and where you got to on that. I think in 10 years down the line, it knows exactly all your dating situations. It's probably them.
Lack of.
I know. Well, don't drag me. Jesus,
Just talking about myself.
No, me too.
A massive thank you both for coming on the show. I absolutely loved where that went. It was always going to be here, there and everywhere, but a lot of really important conversations around neurodiversity and of course suicide and your own personal journeys. And I think what you've both done in your platforms to amplify like honesty, like and authenticity around mental health and wellbeing is admirable. And just thank you for everything that you've done. And hopefully it's much more.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Amber and Tal reminded us that showing up beats fixing. Naming feelings beats hiding behind a smile, and recovery isn't always linear, and actually mostly isn't linear. It's a learning process. Checking in on a friend and letting someone know that you're there for them is still, in today's world, so important, right? And such an obvious thing to say on a podcast like this, but I think they embodied that. You know, these are two friends, essentially, you know, two friends showing up with raw honesty, and you can see the genuineness that sits within what they're both saying. But what I love about them both is their ability to use their creative outputs to create change in their area of influence. You know, you take Tal as somebody who, you know, is very open about so much in his life now, use a platform around his tattooing ability to talk about mental health. Like, he describes it almost as therapy at times, you know, not necessarily just for him, but like for those that come in, and he has to kind of manage that kind of fine line between, you know, the tattoo kind of moment being a form of therapy. But, you know, I kind of thought about that after, and what amazing thing that somebody not only has a creative skill like that, but actually can make conversations about mental health accessible in the moment. And, you know, I think in today's world that, you know, are we more connected or disconnected? Like, who knows? It depends on the way you look at it from a tech perspective or a kind of social connection perspective. But the fact that he has a space, a physical space in society, like in a city, a network, and he's using that to bring people together and talk about these topics, I think is admirable. And, you know, Amber, of course, like massively in the public eye and spotlight for so much of her life. And the choices that she's made after living Love Island are kind of apparent, and I think talk so much to the genuine person that she is. You know, I remember meeting her like many years ago, like after she won Love Island, and, you know, she had a choice right at that point, what way that she goes, and she stuck always to her own values at the heart of that. And I think the more we can help young people who are fastly shot to fame, I'm pleased to hear that there's so much is being done to protect Love Islanders coming out of the villa when it comes to their mental health. But I think Amber is somebody who goes beyond that. You know, millions of people looking up to her platform. I know that there'll be a whole host of young women and girls looking up at what Amber does, not only probably wanting to know who she's dating and what she's wearing, but actually how she talks about herself, her identity, and her own mental health. And I think for me, that is, you know, we need influencers that can influence young people entering into today's world. And for that, you know, Amber has, you know, is leading by example. I think they both talked about kind of their neurodivergence awareness that they now have about themselves. I think that's a learning journey. You know, I was diagnosed with ADHD not that long ago, and it's interesting to hear two people in two very different spaces to me talk about their neurodivergence. And what you see in that is actually, from my perspective, you know, I said very early on to Tal that actually has his ASD been a part of his journey to realizing that actually what his profession might be? And he said no, like outright said no. And for me, that was a learning opportunity for myself, because I naturally assumed, you know, that those with ASD actually attention to detail and actually obsessive over the skill. And actually thought, well, obviously that's his tattooing. That's where I went in my research, but actually I wasn't right. And I think that taught me to perhaps challenge some of the own assumptions I might have around some neurodivergent conditions, but also individual people. But more than anything, I think this was about friendship. This was about connection and the importance of showing up for people at their lowest points. And yeah, it was just nice to see two people, clearly have a lot of time and for each other, but also show up in a way that I think we need more of. And in doing so, questioning the default about what it means to be an influencer and someone with a large platform in today's world. And yeah, amazing episode, and look forward to seeing you next Wednesday.